4th Street, and we got Mo Dogs on 88.5 this year.
3, 2, 1. It's that time of the day. Welcome to the 4th Street Sports Show, an award-winning student podcast covering all things Golden Eagles. What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to the 4th Street Sports Show, and as always, we're going to have a great day on the show. Just a little things to forecast. We're going to, of course, talk about Southern Miss football winning against Tulane in a close match, 27-24, with definitely a lot of storylines and parity, of course. But we'll jump into that in a few. But first, guys, we want to preview our special interview with our special guest that we will have on, in Lindsey Legg, who is on the volleyball team. We talked to her about a lot of things, especially, and some of the research that she is doing in her career field. So that'll be interesting. Be sure to check that out. But without further ado, guys, how are you guys doing, man?
Percolating.
I'm doing well. Fun weekend in Tulane. We back here, 4th Street Sports Show.
Yes.
I had the weekend off and come back from a 12.5-hour car ride without air conditioning. So
Sheesh.
Wow, our air conditioning went out. So it was interesting. It was a little warm, but at least I saw Ohio State win. So.
And Brutus get clotheslined.
Yeah, he did. That
Yeah,
was pretty crazy.
He deserved it.
So, Nathan, man, get in here for a quick second, man. Tell us how everything is going, man.
Oh, it's going good, y'all. I hope y'all enjoy the rap that I did earlier. It was I did my best impression of Austin, how good he does on the rap. So, yeah, it's a good show. I'm glad to be on, y'all.
Of course, and lastly, I want to give a shout out to Sky, our producer. But without further ado, just some quick thoughts before we hop into our Eagle Eye. That's usually what we do. Just some quick thoughts on the game, and we'll jump into the Eagle Eye, guys.
Yes, so we, Jackson, Nathan, and me were at the Tulane game, and I mean, it was a great game to go to, and it's just a feeling. I wrote about it in my story, just from a fan's perspective. I think you could just tell, but also players and coaches, of how much it meant. It felt like relieving, but also a step in the right direction. And that's what they've been waiting for so long. And really, I feel like that could have been what Liberty could have felt like. But to do it against Tulane was even bigger for the program, and to do it on the road. So it was just a great atmosphere after a game to feel that, and you could tell of how much it meant.
Yeah, like you said, just a big game, and it meant so much. I remember Tulane went up 14-0, and all of us in the press box, we were prepared to write a somber story about the game. I know I had the headline in mind, Southern Miss gets their bell rung by Tulane. That was circulating, but then Southern Miss came back. They came within, I believe, 7 at halftime, and then they came back 17 unanswered in the second half. But you look at the stats, they got outgained by almost 200 yards. They didn't look particularly impressive on offense, but they were opportunistic. They scored when they had to, and special teams, that was really the difference. And then the Eric Scott pick six was the icing on the cake. Just a huge victory for Southern Miss, and to do it against a rival, to bring the bell home, who you haven't beaten in 10, 12 years, something like that, just absolutely huge, and probably the biggest win of Will Hall's tenure so far. I think that there's no debate there.
Yes, so without further ado, we'll hop into the Eagle Eye. Great talk right there. We're going to talk more about Tulane and Southern Miss coming up, and just talk about the Battle of the Bell. But without further ado, Charlie, let's take it away with some women's golf.
Yes, so we had the men's golf team in here last week for their title, and guess what? The ladies added a title to their belt also, and their first since 2017, so impressive for them. They won the Hoover Invitational last week thanks to the play of Amoka Ando, who finished a career-best second place, and Freen Champidagdacha finished 9th, and freshman J.C. Fields also finished 10th, with Alina Melik finishing behind her at 12th place. So good all-around performance from women's golf. And they will return to action October 3rd and 4th at the Pat Lesser Harbottle Invitational, all the way up in Seattle, Washington. And an update from men's golf right now, who are playing at the Old Town Collegiate. They're actually leading after day one again. So huge start to the season for golf.
Yeah, and just moving over to soccer, Southern Miss, they bounced back from a 4-1 loss on the road against ULM with a draw in its first matchup against James Madison at home on Sunday afternoon. Alex Helbling recorded a clean sheet with 6 saves for Southern Miss, second scoreless tie of the season. Esmeralda Figueroa led the team with 3 shots, which were all on target, and the Golden Eagles are 1-1 in Sun Belt play, and will stay home for their next matchup against Texas State on Saturday, October 1st at 1 p.m.
Volleyball time here on the Eagle Eye. The Golden Eagles kicked off Sun Belt play at home against none other than the reigning conference champions in South Alabama. The Jaguars took the first game in 4 sets despite a late Southern Miss comeback. Sophomore Megan Harris recorded a career-high 32 digs in the match, along with 26 kills from Mia Wesley and a .500 hitting percentage, 11 kill performance from Kara Atkinson as well. The Golden Eagles were able to get the revenge on Saturday with a 5-set battle win against South Alabama. Atkinson tied her career high in kills with 15, while Kenzie Smith tallied a career high 61 assists. Wesley finished the match with a match-high 24 kills and a career-high 25 digs for the double-double, and Mia Wesley just continues to climb aboard the record books and cementing herself in Southern Miss history. The Golden Eagles are now 9-5 and will host Troy September 30th and October 1st at the Wellness Center with first serve Friday night at 6 p.m.
Just before I jump into men's tennis, I just want to say a quick statement about volleyball. It was a phenomenal game. I was there Saturday, of course. I did not attend. Also, along with Dima, the Battle of the Bell. I felt a little salty about it, but but I had some other priorities to get straight, of course. But just being there, just seeing Kenzie Smith and Mia Wesley, those two ladies are special. And Kara Atkinson, she came up huge, especially closing out sets. She closed out like 2 or 3 sets before she closed out the game winner with a major spike down the middle of the court that just set the Wellness Center on fire. So I just want to say this volleyball team, as always, they're special, and they continue to raise the bar. Mia continues to break career records. Kenzie Smith continues to break career records, and Kara Atkinson is definitely a young player that definitely has a lot of fire. She's interesting to watch and fun to watch, and this volleyball team is energetic, and they're fun to watch. So I definitely encourage you to go down to the Wellness Center when you can. But without further ado, speaking on men's tennis actually earned 4 wins over a 2-day span at the Southern Miss Invitational here in Hattiesburg, of course. The Golden Eagles now head to the ITA All-American this Saturday through Monday in Tulsa, Oklahoma. So that should be interesting. And moving on to our main topic, of course, football. As the moment we've all been waiting for, like I said, we have to get a little things out of the way to let people know what's going on outside of Southern Miss football. But going into it, guys, Southern Miss would defeat Tulane 27-24 at Yarmouth Stadium in New Orleans. And we'll be back with some more afterwards to discuss everything, but it shall be fun. But without further ado, take it away, Nathan. He's taking over the radio rap this week. Let's get it.
The Golden Eagles captured their biggest win of the season and possibly of the Will Hall era this weekend with a 27-24 victory over the undefeated Tulane Green Wave. Even though this is just another W in the win column, the road to this victory could not be overshadowed.
Yeah, the road had no pavement on it. All right, it was gravel. All right, there was a lot of holes. All right, there were some trees knocked down in it, and it's been a really, really tough road. All right, but the road's starting to get clear, and it's starting to get better. We're a much more talented team. We got a young quarterback that's got a chance to be a really good player. We got a lot of talent around him, and we're recruiting at a really high level. So the road is starting to get where we can drive a little bit faster on it.
Defensive stars Eric Scott and Bailyn Gill agreed that the road to this victory had been a long time coming, but they know that the team cannot get complacent after the massive win. They attributed their success in this game to Competition Tuesday and making the game about what the team can do rather than making it about the opponent.
I feel like that goes back to Tuesday. Like, Tuesday is our hardly practice day. Like, I feel like when we get done on Tuesday and we do our job on Tuesday, we can do our job in the game.
I feel like that game was strictly about Southern Miss. We had to get back to our roots, our DNA, and that's what that game was about. It was us against us. It wasn't against Tulane. It was us showing ourselves that we deserve to win. We deserve to be in this position. We deserve to make the plays that we make, and that's what happened.
The Green Wave would start the game hot as they would score 2 rushing touchdowns from Ty J. Spears to give Tulane an early 14-0 lead. The Golden Eagle offense struggled early on, failing to score on their first 4 drives. They would finally get some momentum halfway through the second quarter with a defensive stop at Tulane's 6-yard line. The Golden Eagles took advantage of great field position after the punt with a quick 23-yard passing touchdown from Zach Wilkie to Jason Brownlee. The momentum continued to flip as the Golden Eagles special teams unit would get their first block of the game on the very next drive, leading to a field goal for Southern Miss. The Golden Eagles would only find themselves down 17-10 at halftime in a game they had not executed well on offense. Southern Miss's defense stepped up big time, nearly shutting out the Tulane offense in the second half. After a Tulane missed field goal, the Golden Eagles put together their best offensive drive, going 70 yards in 7 plays to tie the game at 17-all. The special teams unit would show up again as they would block a field goal this time, leading to a made field goal on the next drive to give the Eagles their first lead of the game. The clean game by both teams would end on the next drive as Eric Scott would get his second pick 6 of the season.
Great effort and hustle by Christian Booth to knock it up in the air, and then for Jay Stanley to lead me into the end zone, man, I was just so happy. A lot of emotions.
Tulane would go on to score a late touchdown to tighten the score at 27-24, but Southern Miss would recover the onside kick to end the game once and for all. This has been Nathan Lee with 4th Street Sports.
Thanks, Nathan, with that radio recap right there of the Tulane versus Southern Miss. I'm going to keep saying it, Battle of the Bell. As you all know, also, just a sidebar, the bell was broke. The bell was broke. It didn't last long, but it ended up breaking, and it was a sad but fun moment at the same time. Hopefully it gets passed up pretty soon. I know Will Hall said in the press conference that there are some good welders in Hattiesburg, so hopefully somebody can repair the bell. But moving on, talking about the game, just one thing that I want to comment on that Nathan said that was very interesting, and just highlighting just the Will Hall area so far. Nathan said that this was probably the momentous, the biggest win, matter of fact, in the Will Hall era so far. So, guys, could you just comment on that statement right there and what you guys think about that, going against his former team? You know, he came from Tulane, the offensive coordinator there before coming to Southern Miss. Could we just comment on, so far, has this been the biggest win in the Will Hall era, and what's to look forward to next?
Yeah, I mean, I think that Will Hall has, he has 5 wins now, including this one. So 5 wins in Southern Miss. So it's to me, it's not even a question. It's the biggest win. I mean, you talk about, and I think like Charlie just said a few seconds ago, like if this was against Liberty, then Liberty would have been the biggest win right up until this point. But this is a game where Tulane is 3-0. They just came off of beating a Power 5 opponent on the road. They're 13.5-point favorites. Their defense is exceptional. Southern Miss's offense has not been, and they still weren't to what they should be in this game today. But they show that they have the willness to win a football game. And that's why they've talked about that for now over a year and a half, about the toughness of the team. They've got to recruit. They've got to get better so that they can put themselves in the best position to win a game. That win last Saturday was not based on it wasn't based on just like the football aspect. Like they didn't, it was solely based on the toughness of the team, special teams, the defense, the offense, all of the mental. They came in there. They didn't lose their confidence. They knew that they could win that football game, and that's a testament to Will Hall, and that's a testament to the Will Hall coach that all these players transferred from the SEC, transferred from these bigger schools to come play for. And this is no question, in my opinion, the biggest win of the Will Hall era, and potentially the biggest win in the past decade. I mean, if you take the 2016 Kentucky game into consideration and a couple others, but just of what Southern Miss fans have had to endure over the past, since the 2020 season, ever really since the end of the 2019 season when Jake Abraham got hurt, and then just the downfall of Southern Miss football since then. It all led to this moment where they go on the road and beat a rival out of all teams. Like this wasn't like, Tiddlywinks College or anything. This was Tulane where, they win a trophy. Like they win something to win this game, and they do it on the road in front of a hostile environment. And I think without a question, it's the biggest win, and it really changes the outlook of this season.
Piggybacking off of that, sorry. Natron, I think it was Natron in the interviews, you could tell that the player, what it really meant to the players, because he said, he came from a school where he was winning. So lots of these players, had to adjust to losing, especially, transfers too, coming from SEC. And to be, to lose is tough for everyone. And for them to, put a, high morale kind of performance and win like that, it meant so much. Nathan included that quote from Eric Scott that said, it was us against us. It gets us back to our DNA, our roots. But also, Natron literally said that it was like tears of joy when the game ended, just because that road that Coach Hall was talking about, it includes all the players too during that tenure since 2020. I mean, you think 3 coaches, and then last year the quarterback situation. It's just been an absurd time span these last 2 years, and to have during that year, Will Hall on Tulane beat Southern Miss 66-24.
Yeah.
So you see the transformation into 2 years. It's definitely very promising. It's the most promising thing that's happened to Southern Miss in that time span.
We know how much Will Hall loves him some metaphors, and he delivered 2 at the press conference that made a lot of sense. The first one was talking, I don't remember the exact metaphor, but it was about getting the wagon over the hill, and he thinks they finally did that. And then the wagon going up the hill, it's been a tough road. And then all of the players seemingly quoted that same metaphor.
Wow.
We spoke to like 4 players after the game, and they all had some semblance of that metaphor. And then the other metaphor, he quoted Bobby Bowden and said, sometimes you lose big, you lose small, then you win small, and then you win big. They definitely lost big last year, and hey, they won close this year. He thinks they might be progressing more than they think, but y'all hit the nail on the head. It was a rivalry win. Rivalry win, that's a tongue tire, but just very important. And you talked about if the Liberty win would have happened, that might have been the big one. If you compare the two, this is bigger because it's a rivalry game on the road against a really good team, against Will Hall's former team.
Yeah.
The beatdown that Tulane laid on the Golden Eagles in Hattiesburg likely got Will Hall the job.
Wow.
Right? So it's just really important, and this was a turning point, I think, for the Golden Eagles this season. Now, who knows what they could do in Sun Belt play?
Well, I mean, it just brings a whole new sense of confidence with the team, right? Because like Jackson's saying, you can say all you want, about all the metaphors you can bring. It's like, solving a math problem. I can have all of the functions and formulas and all that, but unless I do it, I'm never going to really fully understand the reasoning behind it, right? So you can hear and repeat and say all these metaphors that Will Hall's been saying, but once you see it happen on the field and see all the work finally come out and win a big game like that, then you see, and that's what you're saying, tears of joy. Like, that's so powerful. Like, just what these players have had to go through, and especially Coach Hall, he's faced a fair amount of criticism, for not getting this, as quickly as possible back to where it used to be. And he's told fans that it's going to be a road, it's going to be a grind. And now that you see, and Charlie said it's a step in the right direction, I think it's probably the biggest step they've had so far in the right direction. It's probably a big leap, because like now you can see a way they can very much compete this season in the Sun Belt and potentially a shot at a bowl game.
Yes, and just to add to that, I think that you guys both hit it right on the nose with that one, was that, he's been saying these things all season, and the season before that of, getting the ball rolling. I think I recall him saying in the Miami presser how once they get this thing rolling, it's going to be all downhill from there, and then, it's going to be ball game basically. And I think the fans are kind of seeing that now, that, hey, they put 2 games together where they haven't given up a turnover, and that's huge in itself. I saw a stat by Scott Watkins, I think it was, that the last time that they did that was in 2015 or 2016. It was when they put together no turnovers versus Rice and Charlotte that year, and it's just the small things that you.
I think it's by David.
Yeah, David. My bad for miscrediting, but David Ecker. But it's just the small things that take into account wins like this, and just those things are huge in itself. And I think fans are realizing, hey, like, you know, we should buy in more now that we see that we can compete with these teams. And one example of that was the first half against Miami. Fans saw it, but you know how that have ended up crumbling in the second half. But now they see that Will Hall can get it done, especially against some formidable opponents, especially what Tulane did the week before against Kansas State. And we look at them, Kansas State just went on to beat number 6 Oklahoma.
Yeah.
So you hear the parodies of, oh, is Southern Miss better than number 6 Oklahoma now that K-State beat Oklahoma, and the fall from there, the domino effect, of course. But it's just interesting to see just the growth that has happened just within the couple of weeks. And now he's talking about, we heard the statement today that Zach Wilkie is solidified as the starter. So you're kind of seeing a turnover here. We don't know where it goes from here, but it's definitely a good way to start. And it gives fans hope now that they can see that this team can compete, especially with the defensive unit and the special teams performing as well as they did also last week.
And I also think it's something worth crediting. Like, Southern Miss should really be 3-1 right now. Like, if you take out just silly turnovers in the Liberty game, they could very easily be 3-1 right now headed into Sun Belt play next weekend at Troy. So it's just, you see that, and I don't think any one of us here projected 3-1 coming out of the first 4 games. Just unbelievable how the turnaround has seen, and now you're seeing it, and now we'll really see it as they go to the Trojans next weekend.
And let's talk about turnarounds within the turnaround. Austin, you mentioned no turnovers for 2 straight games.
Mm-hmm.
Zach Wilkie went into the locker room with a clean jersey. He wasn't sacked a single time. So for the offensive line to turn around like that, and they still have work to do, but the fact that they were able to do that against a good Tulane defense bodes well for the future, because they're not playing Tinky Winky University anymore. They're playing Sun Belt play, so it's going to be interesting to see.
And lastly, guys, that was an excellent statement also, Jackson. But just before we get out of here, before break, I just want to ask you guys just to grade Zach Wilkie's performance. He's now had 3 starts now. He went 17 for 25 for 184 yards, and he had a couple touchdown passes right there. Could we just grade his performance as A or B, or what do you think now that he's solidified as the starter? And we'll head to break afterwards.
Well, taking last year's quarterback situation, I don't think there's a scale that performance could be on. So I think he did what he needed to do, and it wasn't the most impressive performance. It's not one that will stand out to you, but he did what he had to do. Also, his receivers, Brownlee and Casson accounted for over half, almost 75% of his yardage. So he has the weapons. He's making the right decisions. Coach said his eyes were looking right all game, and then he came back with a different intensity in that second half. You couldn't ask for more.
Yeah, I'm not going to grade him on the curve where we didn't have a quarterback last year play for Southern Miss. So I'd give him about a B on the true freshman scale. I mean, he's done everything you've wanted to do. He hasn't been spectacular, but he has that ceiling that he can reach. So he's done what you want from a true freshman quarterback this year, and he can only improve.
Yeah, I mean, I would probably give him an A. I mean, you take out just the weirdness of the Northwestern State game where they're trying to throw in 2 quarterbacks. You have a very good first half against a Miami defense who's very good, and then you have 2 touchdowns thrown against 165 yards for against a very, very, very good Tulane defense. So you got to give him, I would say, an A, and we'll see what happens. Like Charlie said, it's not like a standout performance, but you know what it did? It got them the victory. And, that is all that you can ask for. Now, if they had lost and then you look at that performance, you may give him a different grade. But he did what he needed to do. He didn't throw an interception. So he wasn't the reason they could have lost.
Of course. And I think that is the way we'll end it out. And we will be back with our interview guest we have on, Lindsey Legg, which was a pre-recorded interview that we did in the Wellness Center with a nice backdrop. If you're watching on the stream, you'll see it. It involved Charlie and Dima. Without further ado, we'll be back with Lindsey Legg's interview. Southern Miss Radio. Now we are back. We are now about to get into our special interview with volleyball player Lindsey Legg. She is a redshirt junior here.
Welcome back to 4th Street Sports Show.
About the changes to the upcoming year so far with the new addition of head coach Jenny Hazelwood and how the season is going so far. And also, she is a special lady. She's actually doing research with the volleyball team on how training affects the athlete. So that is something that will be very interesting. Without further ado, we'll hop into it.
Welcome back to 4th Street Sports Show. We're here with Lindsey Legg from Southern Miss Volleyball. She's about to practice, so we're not going to take up too much of her time, but we just want to see how Lindsey's doing. How are you doing, Lindsey?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
And so 12 games into the season, just kind of what are your first takeaways from these first couple of weeks?
I think we've seen a lot of growth in the last 12 weeks. You got to compare to last year, kind of where we're at this point. Just being able to, we are done with tournament play, going in conference play. We've learned from all of our losses, learned from our wins. So I think we're looking pretty strong to start conference this coming week.
So 4th season at Southern Miss, correct?
Yeah.
So.
Oh yeah, I'm the grandma of the team, that's for sure.
So from your experience, what has changed or felt different from these first games compared to, your experience? And it could be individually too, something that you've done differently.
I think for the team and myself included, it's been fun with this new coaching staff coming in. Everyone's loving the game and enjoying to play again. Like you see people, I don't know if you can see behind me, but people are coming in early to practice, wanting to get better and see that improvement and that growth and wanting to be in here, which has promoted A, that's a positive environment here, but B, you're only going to perform better when you're in that kind of state. So that over the past 4 years has been awesome. I think It's a little bit different for me this year, being in my last year, so it's been a lot of like the coaching aspect or helping the younger players kind of develop and like, okay, these are high pressure situations. It's a little different than high school, especially with our 2 freshmen. Like just being able to be there and like a mentor, like, okay, I've done this for those 4 years. Like now for me, it's like second nature, so kind of helping that on that end.
And let's backtrack to before when you were the grandma of the team.
Okay.
You transferred from San Diego State,
Yes.
originally from Fort Walton. Could you talk just how you ended up at Southern Miss and just if you could kind of recap your overall experience of what Southern Miss has meant to you these last 4 years?
Yeah. So, okay, going from Florida to cross country,
And teammates, and obviously, this is a pretty new squad with a couple of freshmen, like you were just talking about, But it seems like you all had a great season so far, and really built on chemistry and really built on teamwork. So just talk about the importance of that chemistry with volleyball, and just importance of that teamwork that Coach Hazelwood was talking about a few weeks ago, just in your own words.
Yeah. So the camaraderie on this team has been, I couldn't ask for a better senior season. I think we've all gotten along so well. We're never really tired of each other. Like, I'll go be at home on a weekend by myself. I'm like, I want to see my teammates. So, like, that's been awesome. But also, everybody has each other's best interest in mind. And so, like, I feel like this team can be like, someone can look at me and be like, Lindsey, get your stuff together. And I could do the same to somebody else. And that's only going to drive a better performance out of that person. And, like, that self-accountability and being able to be a team and be a family of, okay, we can be together when times are hard. We can call somebody out when those times are hard, and for the benefit of the team as a whole, and like getting the wins this program deserves.
Yeah, and just talking about your work just off the court, you're in the School of Kinesiology and Nutrition, and currently partnered with Biomedics Lab to do some research. So could you just go through that and explain that process?
Yeah. So in the Biomechanics Lab, we do some fun stuff with like force plate, motion capture system. This past year, I had all my teammates come in, and we kind of looked at their jumping and landing, their blocking and hitting kind of skills, like on the motion capture system of like, okay, how are you landing? Are you landing more on one foot versus the other? And the whole goal of that is like the study of human movement, which is pretty much like what kinesiology and biomechanics is all about, is how do we take that and kind of enhance performance, reduce your risk of injury. So like it's been kind of fun to see, okay, maybe changing like what we're doing in the weight room or changing how we're doing different mechanics playing volleyball to be more efficient, but have better success rates. So that's been super fun, and it's been able to bridge like my academic interest and career with like the sport that I love.
And kind of what was the inspiration behind that, if you could kind of take us back to when you first started?
Yeah, I think for me, I was always like, I'm going to go the PT route, I'm going to go the AT, but with the faculty I had here, it just kind of evolved to where I wanted to be on the research side and like looking into like female sports, especially, and like even volleyball, like you don't see a lot of the times it's as well recognized in the literature as like baseball or football or basketball, so something like that. So that was kind of something that I aimed to like almost fill a gap in, and then they just kind of worked of like, I'm super interested in like ACL risk, injury risk, like what are we wearing or training that kind of increases or reduces those risks. So that was kind of where my interest fell, and then with the sport of volley, it just kind of went hand in hand, because I mean volleyball, we're jumping and landing all the time, so it just kind of ended up working out. And I've had awesome faculty and coaches to be able to promote both my academic and athletic growth, and they've been allowed me to do that. So.
And where are you at in this process, and like what have you been able, or you said the athletic trainers that were able to kind of apply specifically, like what's been the results of this research?
So kind of where we're at is just like the application piece of understanding like our imbalances, our deficiencies, and being able to implement those. And like same like when you're training a skill. Like if my service receive's not clicking on the court, like I better be coming in to work on my angles and my service receive. It's the same thing. It's like a training thing. And with that, it's just like you're always gonna have data. You always have gaps to fill. So like I'm still in the process of like running the statistical analysis now. So like we're slowly getting some things back here or there. So that's kind of where we're at. And we've talked to Coach Jenny and I have talked about like, okay, now can we do something with like that was more like lower extremity. Can we do something with arms? Looking at like your arm speed, all like how they're swinging, those kind of mechanics. So there's always kind of room to grow.
And research is a huge process. On top of being a student athlete, could you just tell us what this process has kind of taught you and what you have learned?
Yeah, first thing is I should have bought a cot a long time ago to go in the locker room and to go in the lab because I don't leave those two spaces. But I think it taught me the intangibles, I think, of like being able to communicate, being able to allot my time to be as like, to put all of my efforts into one thing, but then able to be able to flip a switch and okay, I'm in the lab, doing my lab work, get it done, flip a switch, come to volleyball and be like 200%. So finding that balance of time management, and then especially traveling on the road, being able to to understand of my needs and kind of build those skills of okay, I gotta communicate my needs, I need a time management, and then another thing it's kind of made me realize is okay, I can be two different identities almost. Like I'm an athlete and I'm a student. So like being able to merge those two was kind of like a breakthrough moment for me because I was like athletes always first, like athletics first, like volleyball was me. So like understanding we're more than just an athlete.
And you talk about that breakthrough just now. Have you been able to kind of help or guide other student athletes, or if you had any advice, what would you give them to kind of help that work-life balance? It's always a discussion talked about with student athletes.
Yeah, I think I've been able to kind of help a little bit. I think it took a long time for me to realize we're all going through the same thing, and although it might be small differences here or there, we kind of just bond together and be there in support of each other and being able to I think a big part of it was being able to communicate in how that person wants to be communicated with. Like, I'm very much be straightforward. You don't need to tell me I'll be okay. I know I'm okay. That just makes it worse. But then some people need that, like, handheld. And so I think, like, understanding, and that goes back to the whole team, being a team thing, understanding each other's needs and how they want to be communicated with to kind of make it through those times.
So what's the overall goal for you? Are we going to be calling you Dr. Lindsey Legg soon?
Let's hope. So obviously I'm in my last year. Right now I'm in the process. I have interview after interview right now with PhD programs. So those are just like initial like applications and stuff. Decision won't be made till the spring. So, but that is the end goal. So hopefully like 3.5 years, 4 years, it'll be a Dr. Legg. So.
Well, we wish you the best luck on that. And just going back to volleyball, we're recording this before the first Sun Belt Conference matchup against South Alabama. Could you just tell what's the kind of the team's focus right now and how y'all are preparing just for this Sun Belt slate?
Yeah. So I think it goes back to being able to scout, execute a plan, and then focusing on ourselves. We control what we do, so that's a big thing, like making sure our first contacts are great. Like we need to make sure we tidy up our side, and then we can focus on, okay, if we're gonna take away, like pinpoint one player, what do we need to do in those like certain situations? So I think we're just coming in right now, grinding our tail off to be able to, okay, if we're confident in our skills now, and a match will just come. We don't have to think about it. So we're excited. Come watch us Friday, Saturday. I think it'll be an exciting game.
And there seems to be some really good characters on this team too. Do you have anything you'd like to give us from what you like about this team this year?
I think the best part of this team is the aspect of that we're a team. And I think we're pretty fun to watch, whether it be like exciting plays on the game, but I mean, shout out to the bench because we've come up with some fun cheers and we're beating every bench right now in terms of like bench to bench battles, like dancing, bowling balls, like waving. So I think that's been fun. It's made the whole environment itself. We work as a unit, like we're supporting each other, who's playing, who's off, like so I think that's the funnest thing about it.
So definitely come to Wellness Center to hear some of those new cheers and see the soon-to-be Dr. Lindsey Legg. Lindsey, we thank you for coming on 4th Street, and we'll see you soon.
Oh, thanks, guys.
streaked you are.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's that time of the show. We're now giving flowers.
Welcome back to our flowers section, presented to you by University Flowers and Gifts on Highway 49 here in Hattiesburg. But without further ado, guys, we are going to announce our 4th Street Player of the Week, and we have our honorable mention section too, so that'll be interesting. I think we have a couple of honorable mentions, so we'll get into that later. But without further ado, let's get a drum roll, guys. And now the moment you've all been waiting for. That is my game host voice. All right. Get a beat started here. But our 4th Street Player of the Week is none other than defensive back Natron Brooks. Brooks would have 3 tackles and a but a big-time play. Blocking a field goal that would lead to a Golden Eagle score that would absolutely change the game, guys. It was a couple of things that happened, especially on special teams, that were momentous. But Natron Brooks would have a huge block for a field goal that would change the game around and give Southern Miss the momentum that they needed. Southern Miss also would play phenomenal on special teams with a block punt and a block field goal. And Tulane also missed a couple of field goals also, so that's of course.
And the field goal that the other field goal that Tulane missed, yes. Natron was right there too.
Yes.
So I mean, we had to, especially after last week, we had to put him in discussion for Player of the Week just because 2 straight weeks of him going all at it on special teams. He said it's the opportunity to go the hardest, which was pretty hard in itself.
Yes.
So big dog mentality right there. And other mentions, we're gonna go with Zach Wilkie. We didn't put him on, but he threw for 17 of 25 for 184 yards and 2 touchdowns. Like we said, not the most impressive stat line that would pop out, but he did his job, and he's definitely improving. And also, last week's Player of the Week, Jacarius Caston, we could have put him on there too. He had a career-high 8 catches for 92 yards and 1 touchdown. There's a little laugh in here because Jackson is just continuing to say dog, which is what Dalen Gill was doing in his presser, which is pretty funny.
Oh, man.
But, I mean, what did you see from volleyball, too? We had to leave off some pretty crazy performances.
Of course. I stated earlier in the show, but just an honorable mention to Cara Atkinson. She would have a total of 3. She would have a total of 3 sets that she would close, eventually closing the set against South Alabama to split the series there in a 16-14 fifth set, where she would just absolutely spike it down the middle and it would just erupt the Wellness Center. So honorable mention to Cara Atkinson, who will have a career high 15 kills. She's a phenomenal player, electrifying to watch. Also, just an honorable mention to Mia Wesley. Also, 26 kills one day on Friday, 24 on the next, and splitting a double-double with 25 digs, which will be her career high also. And last but not least, just Kenzie Smith continuing to set the bar. Guys, she set her career high at 59 assists just last week. A couple of weeks ago against Stephen F. Austin. Now she set it again with 2 more at 61 assists. I mean, I don't know. It's a big difference between basketball and volleyball, but whatever you want to call it, dropping dimes, dropping whatever bombs. But she's definitely killing it with 61.
Dog.
Hey, yeah,
Dog.
Yeah, I want to hear it, Jackson. Kenzie Smith?
Dog.
Oh my God! But
That should be the new cacao.
Dog.
Well, thank you for listening to 4th Street. Dog.
But of course, she's definitely special. The volleyball team is special to watch, and they will be back home this weekend against Troy, starting this Friday at 6 p.m. at the Wellness Center, guys. So that was some of the honorable mentions. I know that also the men's golf, we talked about it earlier, is in first place at the Wake Forest Invitational, guys. So,
Dogs.
Yeah.
Shout out to Momoka Ando again too for that second place finish for women's golf, and then also Mason Hunt kind of got overlooked, but again 46 yards average on 5 punts for 232 yards. Think about that. 2 football fields distance off of 5 punts. That's insane. And Briggs Bourgeois did his job too, 2 out of 2. And Jay Jones, as you said, with that blocked punt. So all around special teams performance. And just shout out to the coaching staff, Greg Meyer, for doing what he was able to do this week. And also just the whole Southern Miss football coaching staff for getting that big win. Dogs.
Dogs. All right. Let's not say it too much before we run out, guys.
We just got some more dogs. What are we talking
Mo dogs.
We got more dogs.
On 4th Street, right here.
Yeah, we do. But without further ado, make sure that you check out 4th Street on Southern Miss Student Media on our live streams. As always, be sure to catch us on the podcast platforms, whatever you choose. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Pandora, whatever.
Google Podcasts.
Website you want to listen to. Make sure you check us out on there at 4th Street Sports. As always, Mondays at 5 p.m. And let's get it started. I definitely think this is a week worth of cacao. I got some more work to do, and I'll let Jackson close out with the dogs in a little bit. But just shout out to Southern Miss football for a huge win on the season. This win definitely changes the season for the Golden Eagles, and it brings a lot of hope to the season. The Golden Eagles will be back in action 2 weeks from now against Troy at Troy, so that would be fun to see. Starting Sun Belt conference play, so that would be interesting. And Zach Wilkie is the starter from now on. Not from starter from now on, but he's solidified his position as the starter. So we'll have to see what happens there. It will be interesting. But any last comments or statements before we get out of here, guys?
Speaking of dogs, can't wait for Danny Dimes to throw some dimes on the Cowboys tonight.
He'll be throwing more dimes to us, Jackson.
So. Ooh, I don't know, man.
That's what he does.
Yeah. We'll also have another podcast out this week. I know some people are wondering if we were going to do a pod since Southern Miss didn't have a game. If we're going to do Prince Bacon, but we will definitely do it. You can listen to it. It's just kind of like a bonus thing to get you to next week.
Yes, and that is all. So, without further ado, this has been 4th Street Sports. Hit it, Jackson.
Dogs.
See y'all next week, Mondays at 5.
3, 2, 1. This has been the 4th Street Sports Show. Tune in next Monday at 5.